Hello, it's Blue Orange 22. So this is a very interesting study that came out of the UK. 50% of 16 to 24-year-old males in the UK, Generation Z, think that feminism has gone too far. Now this isn't really surprising to me at all, and this is something that a lot of guys are talking about with each other, and something that, like I've been saying for years, and like I've been predicting for years, is eventually going to happen. Because guys are being directly affected by things that happen in their lives. And so these kinds of attitudes are kind of to be expected. And as you'll see in some of the articles I show you, it may even be more than 50%. So I'm going to show you a couple articles, but I'm also going to show you the reaction from feminists. And I'm going to show you these reactions because I think that the feminists that I'm quoting in these articles are kind of proving these guys' points by not really listening and not really paying attention. So this was a poll about people's opinions and thoughts on different social issues. Of course, I've linked them both in the description below. Here's what the first one says. Half of men and boys between 16 and 24 believe that feminism has gone too far and makes it more difficult for men to succeed. The report found that more young people agree than disagree with the statement that feminism has gone too far and makes it harder for men to succeed, with 36% stating their agreement and 35% expressing their opposition. Now that's basically the same 36-35%, but the gender breakdown is interesting. Among the male respondents, 50% agreed with the statement, while 21% disagreed. Now that's what I mean by it being more than 50%, because if 50% agree and 21% disagree, that's 71%. Well, what about the other 29%? Let's say that percent's kind of not sure. But just being not sure is kind of interesting because that still suggests that, they're thinking about it in some way. So there's got to be something to that. Let's just say 50%. That's half of men in the UK, or young men I should say, 16 to 24, feel that feminism has gone too far and makes it harder for men to succeed. Now, do people really think that 50% of young men between 16 to 24 are neo-Nazis or misogynists or hate women or alt-righters? Or is it maybe there's something going on here and there's a reason why these young men are feeling this way? But take a look at how some feminists I should say, have reacted. So here's a list of reactions from feminists. It's from the Evening Standard article. I'm going to break them down one by one, but notice what none of them are really doing is listening or asking why. So here's a quote from an MP, actually Britain's youngest MP. The report, which includes a forward from Britain's youngest MP, Labour's 23-year-old Natty Woodhome, makes a number of recommendations, such as making tackling sexism and misogyny in schools and colleges a policy priority. Okay, but how about asking these men and boys, well, how do you feel about sexism? And do you feel that sexism ever affects you? I mean, maybe she is in fact saying that, but the way it says sexism and misogyny, maybe that means that, again, the whole point about men and boys talking about things they experience are kind of going over people's heads, and this does happen quite a lot. Lenny Morris, chief executive of LGBT anti-violence charity. I don't see the name of it though. This article has a few mistakes I gotta say. Wrote in the report that it provides a vital snapshot of the views of young people in the UK today, and that the charity was disappointed to see so many young men saying feminism has gone too far. Now, I agree, actually. I mean, it is disappointing to see so much division and so much misunderstanding and so much of a sense of people being against each other in a society. So yeah, I would say that it's disappointing that 50% of young men feel that way, because it means there's obviously something negative going on and some kind of miscommunication going on. But I would say the same thing. Ask them why. Why do they feel this way? Why do you feel this way? Why do you feel that feminism has gone too far? That's what I'm not really seeing people doing. And I've been saying this for years. And people sometimes ask, well, why are you an MRA? And I try and explain, and then you get shut down. Oh, you're just an incel. You just hate women, etc. Maybe there's more to it than that. Women's rights activists responded with shock and sadness on social media. Okay, respectfully, this is not shocking to a lot of people. Okay, and we've been trying to talk about this stuff for years. We've been saying this for years. But instead of being listened to, instead of people asking, hey, well, what do you mean by that? What's going on? Why do you think that? Again, we're just shut down right away. So now this happens and all of a sudden people are shocked. You know, I'm not. Sophie Walker, a founder of the Women's Equality Party UK, wrote on the platform, "What a waste of young male energy. What an indictment of the politics of division. We can take a bigger pie, not fight over the crumb." With respect, maybe the best response to that isn't to just dismiss them outright and say it's a waste of energy. Maybe, like I've been saying, you should try and understand, well, why do they feel the need to put that kind of energy into what they're saying and doing? Because if these men are talking from their own lived experiences, it's really not fair for Sophie to say, oh, well, I don't think that's valid, and I think that's a waste of time. You know, maybe that's kind of why they're being pushed in the politics of division. Because when they've tried to talk before, they get shut down. And lastly, some quotes from the Vice article, also linked below. That'll be the third link in the description below. Hope, not hate, links this anti-feminist sentiment among men in the younger millennial and Generation Z demographic with far-right ideology. The report warns men's rights and anti-feminists are increasingly becoming a slip in the road to the far right, appealing to young men feeling emasculated in an age of changing social norms. Yeah, see, no. Once again, the men's rights movement is not a far-right ideology. I've said this many, many times. The men's rights movement is about men's rights. And I've been an MRA for a long time, and there are MRAs who are right, left, Democrats, Republicans, everything in between. Okay, and it's just very misleading to say that somehow the men's rights movement is linked to the far right or the fascist. And maybe that's why young men are feeling kind of isolated by feminists, because if they try and express themselves, they're immediately attacked as, oh, you're far right, you're bad, just for saying their own lived experience. Sam Smethers, chief executive of feminist charity the Foster Society, told Vice News, "This data is consistent with previous Foster research, which found that there is a significant proportion of young men who feel threatened by feminism, and also that younger men are more likely than older men to describe themselves as feminist. So opinion is polarized. This explains the high levels of misogyny, abuse, casualized violence, and objectification women experience every day," Smethers said. "We need a step change in men's attitudes if we're going to reverse." Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe some of these young men experienced violence themselves. Maybe they were victims of domestic violence, and they saw how, as men, they weren't being taken seriously. Or maybe they even saw some of the feminist organizations who are trying to make the bill gendered, basically excluding male victims of domestic violence. Them. And they thought, okay, well, feminism's not really speaking for me. So, who is? And then, of course, they're going to find people like the men's rights movement. So again, it's just, to me, that's not really listening. And it's like right away going on the attack and blaming them instead of listening to, hey, what's happening? Why do you think this? What's your experience? Which I think is a lot more fair than saying, no, you're automatically wrong and sexist and you're to blame for violence and misogyny, just because you're speaking about what happens to you in your own life every day.